Alright, so this is Warframe. I'm gonna have this as a bit of mod and mechanics education. Not that anyone who plays the game needs it, but for newcomers, it might be a little good thing to know. So, I'll try to make this short and sweet, which probably won't be short and sweet at all. So let's say you've entered the game and you've decided to do your first mission. And it's within your quest line. That should be okay. So first, education. If you have multiple, if you just started the game, you'll probably have one. But if you have two or three, you go up here in your codex. Your ship will have a codex. The first thing after you get into your ship, it will give you a codex. Your first one will be the only one you've done. But if you've done more than one, it will start to organize itself in description by importance, not description by alphabetical order. So you would go up here to upper right, press on this, and you would select stories. Stories that are part of the main story of Warframe. So there, it will pop up there. Now, it doesn't follow alphabetical order, but it is based on the story themselves. So the story Jade Shadow is the last of the stories. Next one before that, next one after that, Whispers in the Wall. So they're based on the stories released in the game. You have every prime stories in the game, and it goes from first going down to last. So if you press on the first, it will allow you to replay the quest again. So I'll replay the quest again, and I'll try to describe the mechanics of the quest based on that, as if you've just uploaded this game and first started to play this game.
For generations you've slept. No purpose. No call. To wait.
I wonder if I'm wrong about this. Maybe this is not the first. I'll try to skip the cinematics. Oh, okay, I shouldn't have skipped it then. Alright, well, it doesn't matter. That's not the purpose of this video. The purpose of this video is to show the mechanics and mod. So, let's say this is the first time you've ever played Warframe. The cinematic happens, and it then gives you the options to select what you want to select first. This will be the first screen that shows up as you first start the game. So, first thing present will be the Warframes you could play on the left. Now, what is present at the bottom is your powers. So, if you don't notice, you wouldn't notice because this would be your first time playing the game. Typically, as you progress through this game, your powers will always be at the bottom. When you overview the character itself, will be at the bottom. So that's the first thing to remember. The next thing to remember is that once you overview a character's power, when you go into your arsenal, at the bottom it will show it a passive there. So that will always be there. But before I get into that, the first thing you will select first, let's say you're going with a character, doesn't matter which character it is. You select the character has been selected, the character's powers have been described to you, and it has passives. You then confirm. A cinematic happens. You skip
Quick,
the cinematic.
Use your power. Defend yourself.
Okay, so let's say you don't understand anything that I just did. It would tell you in the menu system R1 and X. Press R1 and X. Press R1 and you press X to do the power. Now, what I would tell you, because I already know the game, So if you need advice on how to play this game, you could watch this video while you first started play the game. Is A, you have a center D-pad if you're using PlayStation Control. Your A, B, C, and D powers. You have 4 powers. You swipe to the right with your center control pad. You swipe to the left. Swiping to the left with your center D-pad, and that allows you to do your A power. Swipe to the right.
An extraction ship is waiting for you.
Would allow you to use your C powers, but you don't want to do that. You will swipe downwards. That will allow you to do your B powers. Swipe to the right will allow you to use C powers, and swipe upwards will allow you to use your D powers based on configuration. So let's say I default the configuration, and the first thing that after you already kill these guys using your powers, you could then access a menu system. And to access this menu system, so you could see how to configure everything, because you want to configure everything before you start playing the game, or at least you want to enjoy the game smoothly. You then press on the options button to bring up the menu, and the menu system pops up and show all this stuff that you're saying to yourself, well, what's all this? What's this down here? What's this down there? You don't need to pay attention to any of that stuff. What you need to go to is options, and once you go to options, you'll see all this and you get overwhelmed by all this. You don't need to pay attention to any of that when you first start playing the game. All you need to pay the game is 3 things. 1, button configuration, where your button configuration, and 3 things. 2, visualization, how you want your video to be seen, brightness, so on, contrast, and all this. Taking off blurs, taking off this, remove all this, brightness, and of course sound, where you want your sound to be. Is it too loud and stuff? All this stuff happens. Now if you want to get into more details, you could say, okay, I've done all 3, but I want to make sure I'm having a smooth ride at the same time. I want more than that. I don't want to be bothered by anyone. I don't want to be interacting with anyone. But I do want to get into matches with other people. The next 3 thing I would say to go with regards to everything in the game is, after you do those 3, do these next 3. Do your socials. Make sure your socials and everything that you're connected to is up. You put all squads on, all this. You could decide to put creator mode on, and it says so right next to it. Hides some common spoilers and remove some common transmissions. So if you want to hide spoilers in transmission, you could press that off, especially if you're first time playing the game and you don't want to be spoiled with certain things. You could take that off. And also enable surveys. This will tell you Warframe will occasionally present surveys requesting your feedback. You can opt out to disable these surveys. Now, if you don't take this off, this will pop up in your screen every now and again to ask your feedback with regards to the game. So you could choose to have that off. And then there's the chat. See, there are several sections. There's privacy for you to play the game. Your privacy. Do you want gifts? Do you want this? Do you want that? And then it goes into chat. Where do you want people to chat with you? Do you want people not to chat with you? Do you want to see a region chat? Now, if you want to keep it silent, you don't want to see chat in your screen. You want to play the game with nothing on your screen interrupting your screen. This is where you would take all that off and remove all that. If you want to keep trade on, if you want to keep recruiting on, recruit people so you could go into matches, you keep that on. But if you want to take off regional chat, you don't want to ask any questions at the moment. You don't need to show timestamp at all. Or if you don't want to see any private messages or any of that stuff, you could take that on. Or if you do, that's if you want to keep on profanity filter, you want to keep doing so on, and you want to mute chat notifications if you don't want any interruptions whatsoever. You would take that off as well. So this is very important as well. I just keep it on because I want to. Now, if you want chat parents and all that, that's up to you, but you don't have to. But after you made adjustments to all these things, you would press the confirm button. My suggestion is when you first start changing anything, where this comes to configuration of your Warframe, with regards to buttons, and have buttons, I could put it back to default and keep it at default. This is the default button you would see. You then leave and back out. You then save the settings. The confirmation here would be confirm that you've done everything. So back in. For some reason, once you confirm something, it exits you out of this options menu. So go right back in and then go to your next one. You did the whole social thing. The next one of the 6, I would say, or the additional 3, is interfaces. You could choose the sensitivity of an interface, choose magnetic pull of interface. You could choose damage numbers that you want to see on characters, but in all truth, you don't really need to mess with this. I would say mess with this one more than anything, because you would hold, you could decide to hold to sprint, or you could decide to not hold to sprint. So if you decide to hold to sprint, it will sprint when you press the button in order to sprint, or you could take off hold for sprint and the character will sprint on their own. And also hold for weapon and all this other stuff, additional stuff for controllers, hold to sprint. I took that off. So the ones at the top, if you're using keyboards, this is for you if you're using keyboards. The ones here is if you're using controllers. And of course there's video. Color blindness, you want to take that off. Effects, if the effects are too intense for your eyes, you want to take that off. Like effects from blooming or effects from sparks from your guns and stuff. If they're too bright, or if a person within the game is using too bright colors, like say bright green or white, you could take those off as well, so you could ease the pain on your eyes as well. So it gives you that options, and everything else you need to do here, such as subtitles and stuff. So accessibility is the 5th one, and last but not least, I guess you could go right back to the one I was speaking about before, which is interface. And you could choose to do that interface, but in all truth there's really 5. So once you've done with all 5 of that, then you exit, and then you could proceed with the game. Now remember, based on your customization of your controls, these are defaults. Your A, your B, your C, and your D. A is up, B is down, C is left, D is right. So swipe to the left is C, swipe to the right is D. Up, swipe up is A, and swipe down is B. So if you could figure out, if you could remember that, that's fine. But if you can't remember that, you could always, within the controls of this game, on your center D-pad, adjust it to exactly what you want to do. I adjust my controls on my D-pad like a clock, like going from left to right clockwise. So logically, the next one to proceed from, I go from left to right, so my left swipe to the left would be my A. And of course my B would be my up. Wait, B would be my up. And then C would be my right. And of course D would be down. So I do it based on logic of what my mind tells me on a clock. A, B, C, D. They're following in the line. So I could always remember it easier. Or you could do it based on how I used to do it in the past. A to the right. A to the left. B down. C to the right. But it makes much easier sense for me to do it this way, because it's following in a clockwise position. So once that is done, you exit out, you save, and now you know how to use your powers. And you see what the powers are and how to transfer in and out. You see a lot of buttons, and you proceed forward. Now, the mechanics, I have to decrease the sound. Now this video is about mechanics and mods. So the mechanics basically starts when you start the game. Confirm. So the mechanics basically start when you start the game. So as mechanics, the character is running. You're walking around with the character and the mechanics of the game. You need to understand how to dodge. You need to understand how to shoot. You need to understand how things play out with regards to the game. How to survive, how to beat enemies, and how not to die. So one of the first thing you will need to understand with the mechanics of the game is your field of view. And you could adjust that within your options menu that you've seen before. You close the field of view or increase your field of view. You could decrease it or you can increase it. Here, if I decrease the field of view, it's more, the character is much bigger and the field of view is much closer. But you won't be able to see to your left or to your right. So for the logic of mechanics, you want to see in a much more wider spectrum. So you can see who's coming from your left and who's coming from your right. That said, it's much wider, you understand. Now, also with regards to your mechanics, there's a mini map at the top, and that mini map is kind of like a North Star, not only to guide you to where you need to go to, but also to show you when an enemy will pop up onto your screen and not pop up onto your screen. Typically enemies are red dots, so you would see exactly where they're coming from. So the logical mechanic of the game is also implemented within your map as well. So you would know exactly based on the map presentation of where your enemy is, where they will be coming from. So you would know exactly how to go around them, or how to go through them, above them, or under them, based on the level of where the enemy is. If the enemy is coming down from like a elevator, from a slope, or climbing a mountain, you will understand based off the terrain how to use your mechanics in order to go around them or under them and everything. And also, so that said, you now have to understand how not only the map and the character movement, and of course field of view, mechanics wise, you also have to know how to dodge, block, and how to run fast, get out of the way, and keep yourself steady, and how to keep moving steady and understand where you are. So logic of the default of this controller, with exception to me changing the powers. If I hold down on the L2 button, it goes into a zoom mode. If I had a weapon in my hand, R2 would be to aim the weapon down sights. The mechanic says if I hold down on L2, I'm able to move side to side by holding down on L2. You could also do this by running. Well, you can't do it by running. So part of the mechanics of the game is aiming down sights does not equate to running. So once you're aiming down sights, you're aiming down sight toward the enemy to get an accurate shot. It won't be as effective if you're running and shooting, running and gunning. It won't be as effective because you're not aiming doing precision aiming towards the enemy because of your movement speed. So the game is nice like that in that mechanic wise, is that it allows you to consider killing the enemy faster by locking your movement and not forcing you to speed up too long. Otherwise the trajectory of your bullets or of your explosions won't hit the mark easier, and of course the reticles of the dot won't be able to hit the enemy dead center in their face or in their AoE area. So that's a nice mechanic. And you could also move to the left and move to the right while holding down the R2. So the game is allowing you to have control of your characters while at the same time making sure you could move left to right. Another good thing is if you realize you're getting shot up while you're still trying to shoot the enemies, you could always roll out of the way. I did put it, I did put it back to default, so let me check. Since I put it back to default, the roll is. I wonder if it's like I think it's, yeah, I think it's the same as it was before. Yeah, I think it's the same as it was before. Yep, it's the same as it was before on default. So another configuration you could decide to choose if you don't like the fact that the roll, which is you move forward and you press the L1 button while you're aiming down sights. Let's say you're holding L2 and you're pressing R2 to shoot, and you're moving left to right, and then you have to hold another button. That's three buttons you then have to hold. A button for dodging while still aiming down sights. You can still aim down sights while you're still in this lock position. Aim down sights, rolling sideways, backways, aim down sights. But that's three buttons you have to operate. You will hold down on L2 and hold down on R2 to shoot, and you will tap the L1 to dodge out the way, left, right, back. But what if you don't want your L1 to be the dodge? Then you could always switch your buttons to make it more comfortable, so that when you're holding the L2 and the R2 at the same time, you could hold a button while you're holding L2 and R2 that feels more smooth, rather than trying to hold both the L1 and the L2 and the R2 at the same time. For me, what I do is I take this button and I switch it with the circle, or I switch it with the square. So this would automatically become slide, and crouch will automatically become what is square? This is switch weapons. Nothing square is anything. No. Context action. Yeah, square is context action. So I would take this and I would make this context action. Well, let's use square for circle, for example. I would take this and I make this circle. Now you're saying, well, the circle isn't present. That's because you have to look for the name of the actually what circle is represented, the name, melee actions. So you have to click on this and then look for melee actions. Melee attack, okay. So this would be melee attack, and this will be, it's a bit weird, but the best part about it is you could always change it up. So for square, context actions would now be melee attacks. You can keep switching up to whatever you want, whenever you want. And there, now this will be designated as context actions, and it makes more sense that way, because if you're holding down the L2 and the R2 at the same time, you don't have to remove your finger off the L2 to do context actions, while at the same time you feel more smooth that way. So let's see how it works. So now I'm holding down the R2 and the L2. I'm pretending I'm holding a gun, and now I'm doing the roll, and it feels much more easier. It feels much more easier, and I could do it more easier, rather than feeling that I have to use my left hand in order to, or any one of my fingers on my left hand while I'm holding controller, to use the L1 to do the roll. So that's part of the mechanics as well. to hold the R2 and the L2 while moving, and then you use your options to switch the configuration of your controller to make things much easier for yourself. Because now you could aim down sights and hold your weapon at the same time and dodge. This is how you dodge bullets, but you don't let go of the R2 or the L2. While you can still get precision headshots, you just dodge out the way of the bullets or the explosion while still aiming down sights. So that's how that works. Now, mechanics with regards to running forwards. So it's very important to understand it. R2 aim down sights.
What about bullet jumping?
Yes, mechanics with bullet jumping. So an easy way to understand bullet jumping is based on, let's say your base mechanics is given to you, base default. You just press the X button and then you hold down on the R2. So if you're aiming down sights, and you switch your configuration in your controller, let's say you switch your roll to circle, like I did to roll to circle. You're dodging, you're dodging, you're dodging, you're dodging, you're dodging, and you're still holding down R2 and L2 while you're shooting. You're dodging, shooting, shooting. All you need to do is go up to a higher terrain. You're dodging, you dodge off that higher terrain, and you'll be aim gliding without you even knowing that you're aim gliding. You see? Because you're still holding down the R2, because the X and the R2 is the aim glide. But if you're holding R2 and L2 at the same time, I don't have the gun, but R2 is the gun, and you're aiming down sights, and you're rolling to the left, you're rolling to the right, dodging bullets, bombs coming my way, bombs coming my way, bombs coming my way, teammate, bombs coming my way, get out the way. The moment you see you need to get to higher ground, anything within your vicinity of your AoE vicinity that's a little bit high off the ground, and you're still holding your R2 and you're still aiming your gun, you just roll to that and roll back. You're now aim gliding without you pressing the R to aim glide. So that's how you do that. That's another mechanics. You press X and you hold on the R2, the same button you use for aiming down sights. You press X and hold on the same button for aiming down sights, and you do the aim glide. But a nice little trick with the mechanics is if you're holding R2 and holding your L2, because L2 allows for the aim down sights, R2 allows for the weapon. So if you're holding the L2 and you're pressing X, nothing happens. You have to press X and R2 to do the aim glide. That's how the aim glide works. X first, R2 after. But like I said, if the trick happens with mechanics, if you're holding the R2 and you're moving left to right, if you roll off of it you don't even have to worry about pressing the X. If you roll off it, as long as you're still holding the L2 button, the aim down sight button, you never have to worry about pressing the X, because the X and the R2, the X and the L2 allow for the aim glide. But if you're on high terrain while you're aiming down sights, you roll onto the high terrain and roll off of it, you then go into aim glide mode. See? So that's a nice little mechanics that you will want to understand. A lot of people don't understand it when they're first timers, but that's a nice little mechanic. Yes, you have to first press X and then R2 to aim glide, but at the same time, you don't really have to press X and R2 to aim glide. You could sometimes just press R2 and L2 and then roll onto a high terrain, any high terrain, and you automatically go into aim glide. Even if it's a small little rock like this, the moment you go above it and you're still holding on the R2, roll off of it, you aim glide. See that? If I jump on this and I roll off of it while holding the R2, I'm aim gliding. You just need to be on high terrain to aim glide. So that's a nice little mechanics that I love in this game, that you don't need to follow the rules of the base mechanic that the people actually give you in the game, you could actually discover nice little things that happens within the game. So that's aim gliding. You now know movement, you now know rolling, you now know aiming down sights, you now know um, uh, uh, field of view, you now know the R2 is shooting the gun, you now know your powers is your default, and that you can switch it anytime within your options menu under control configurations, and you can make them whatever you want, anything wherever you want. And if the best way to do so is to put it clockwise like a clock, like it's going from 12 o'clock all the way 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock and back up to 12 o'clock. So if you can make your A starting from, from left going all the way to right, so your A, B go up, C and D, if you think about it like a clock. So when you're using the D-pad and you're going A, and then you go B, A, B, C, and D, you do those powers. But unfortunately, for reasons I don't know why, I'm not able to do my B. It's just allowing me to do my A. Why? It's because this is a tutorial. So it wants you to discover how to do your powers in time. I'm already just telling you how to do it ahead of time. So now I'm going to move forward with the rest of the game, and hopefully it will tell you how to do certain things. I already told you how to do it in advance, but the game is... So it says here, what's this? L3, okay. L3 for sprint, okay, that's the sprint. You go, okay, so that's another thing. Sprint can be adjusted, like I said, within your options menu. You don't have to hold down on L3 at all. In fact, I highly recommend within your accessibilities, where it says hold to sprint, turn that off. If you turn hold to sprint, you turn that off. Hold to sprint, you don't have to press hold to sprint. So now I'm going to turn it off and confirm that you have to hold to sprint, because when you press hold to sprint and you let go of the hold button of the L3, the guy stops. He stops running. But if you here he's running, I press L3 to sprint, because it's on toggle mode. If you take it off toggle mode, if I press L3 again, as long as I'm running and I don't let go of my hand, he's going to keep running. So I don't have to always hold down on the L3. I'm just moving my L3 controller forward. I am not pressing down on the L3 in order to have him run. So that's another nice little option towards the mechanics. I'm just moving the L3 around now. I'm not holding down on the L3 anymore. So go in your options menu and take that garbage off, because it interrupts you. So they were nice enough to allow you to get rid of that mechanic in order to hold down, because it's a pain in the ass when you're in combat and you're trying to hold down multiple buttons just to do a thing. Take it off or switch it to a different mode. I typically, what I do is I make this show map the sprint button. So all I have to do if I'm getting interrupted by the sprinting, I don't want to press the sprint at all. Never. I never want to touch the L3 button for sprinting. I switched this, the up button, to be sprint button. So I press it once and only once, and I never mess with it anymore. So now I'm going to press it to take it off, the up button, and now I want to press it again to put it back on, and I never have to worry about it. Whether he's standing still, he will always go into the sprint. He's standing still, he will always go into the sprint. I never have to hold down on it. He will always sprint. He will always sprint now. No matter what, he will always sprint. R3. So he will never sprint in aiming down sights, because the whole point of aiming down sights is to get better kills on an enemy. If you're running and trying to shoot, you will miss a lot because there's fall off on weapons. Sprint is already on. Thank you. Thank you for the clarity. or moving forward with the story. So that's a nice mechanics with regards to the game. The ability to take off, sprint, and to keep it on at all times. Now, another nice mechanics with regards to the game, I'm going to say it in advance. I'll tell you a lot of stuff before I even complete this quest. When you're aim gliding, you could actually aim glide on a nice little slope going downhill. This allows you to get towards your target location much faster. So when you're going down a hill, you would jump into the air. In order to jump into the air, your X button is for jumping. Propelling. Wait, what button is propelling? Another thing you need to understand, where is your propelling button? So, X is for jumping. Dodge. Blink. I wonder. It'll suck if my propel button is actually the button I think it is. Okay, so jump. Oh, you know what? Let me try it. I never thought about that. Maybe I didn't. Let me put this back to the way it was. Put this crouch side. Let me see if I'm crouch slide. Where is it? No, that's crouch slide and roll. Dodge, blink. Move down, dodge, and blink. Propel. Camera. Progress video. Definitely not movement. Jump. I wonder if that's okay. Let me try something. Are you kidding me? What I was scared of. Alright, so that's the reason why they gave you why they had it there. That's the reason why they had it there to begin with. So now the options of putting the roll as circle will be much harder, because then your fingers will have to hit both the circle and the X button at the same time to propel upwards. That's why they had it here. Okay, so I'll leave it here. So if you're running into that trouble and you realize I want the roll to be one of these buttons, do understand the moment you go to the propel, you would have to press two buttons at the same time in order to do that. That's why they put this here. So I've now put this button back to the way it was, and I'm going to put melee also back to the way it was. So circle is going to be melee again. So the default, in fact, let me just put it back to default. So the default way was correct with regards to those things. It's very important. Not with regards to the powers though. Not with regards to the powers, but with regards to the buttons themselves. It's much easier that way. The powers is a different story. The powers, you can put it wherever you want. But with regards to how things are set up, those are correct. Because you would understand what I'm saying when I do it. Why? Watch. So X and this is aim glide. So X and the same button you use for rolling, the default that they have for rolling here, is the propel. So to go downhill and to do the aim glide downhill, you would run, press the X, you aim glide, and you get down the hill. But let's say if you want to get down the hill much faster, you would use that same button for that same roll button. You press X and that roll button at the same time. As soon as you get to the edge, that gets you into propel mode. That's what that just did. That's a nice little mechanics as well that you don't know. You don't have to be at the edge. You could be anywhere. You could propel into the air, because by pressing X and the circle button at the same time, or should I say by pressing X and the L1 button, the button for rolling, that button that it gave to you, both of them at the same time. You go into this propel mode. So let's say you're running forward. You can run forward, propel forward left, propel forward right. I don't think you can propel backwards, but let's say you're running to the edge, press both of those buttons at the same time. Boom. You now can propel and aim glide at the same time. You don't have to just aim glide, jump X, aim glide down a hill, or going up a high place. Like say I want to get up here and I can't get up here, I would have to jump onto it, try to get up here. But if I press X on this, I get up here and I aim glide and I land on it. The aim glide allows you to have more detail accuracy with regards to where you're landing and where you're going to end up. So I jump here, I could start here, but I could guide the character to where I want it to. Like say if I jump here, I press X, propel upward, hold on the R2, I can then guide the character forward. So even though I was here, I started all the way to the right here, and propel up here, right here, I then pull the L3 button to the direction I want it to do. And you could do the same thing. Propel and pull the character while at the same time using the R3, the look around button. You could do that anywhere you want, and it will follow you. See how I got that huge arc right there? That's how you do it. So you propel in the air, hold on the R2, I mean the L2, and you go wherever you want. So X, the X button, and the roll button, which is the L1, both of those together is the propel button. And the moment you do the propel upwards, you hold down on the L2, which is the aim glide button. So propel upwards, R2, and then go in the directions using both your movement of your L3 and your camera to follow where you want to land onto. So that's a nice mechanic. Hold both of those two together, aim glide, pull in the direction you want to pull it to, and boom, look at that. I was right in the center and I pull it right. So X, L2, propel upwards, look around, pull it in the direction you want it to do. Do it again, pull it, pull it, pull it. I'm land over here. Pull it, pull it, pull it. I'm now over here. Going down the hill, propel forward, pull it, pull it, pull it. I want to go left. No, I want to go to right. There. That's a nice little mechanics that they add to you. So I've just given you like information on how to do aim glide, which is X button and the roll button. But the roll button only works in air, so it's like you're rolling in the air. It's like X and then the L1. That's the propel. It's weird because basically what you're doing is you're rolling, but you're not rolling in the sense of rolling on a flat surface. You're rolling in the air, so it's considered rolling in the air, but it's propelling. You're doing the same roll, but you're rolling in the air. You just press X and you roll in the air. And if you're fast enough, you hold down the L2, you do the aim glide. You can also do many things at the same time. Another nice mechanics that you should use for newcomers that you could learn at the very beginning, as you're pressing the X and the L1 at the same time and you hold the propel, you could then do actions in the air, such as melee actions if you have a melee, and gun actions if you have a gun, or backflips. You could even do a backflip while you're in the air. So you press the X and you press the roll, and then you do the aim glide, and you could jump out of it. If you press the action button, you could jump out of it. So I go up, press the X button, you jump out of it. The X is a cancellation. The same button you use for jumping is the cancellation of your aim glide. So now I'm going to propel by pressing X and the circle, or the R1, which is the crouch and the roll. Press them both by aiming into the air. hold down on the L2, but now I'm going to cancel out by pressing the X. Cancel out by pressing the X. That's weird. That one didn't work. Let's try it again. There. It canceled it out. So let's say if you're about to miss the target. If your target is right here, but your aim glider is carrying you all the way over here, you could cancel it out and land on exactly where you want to land on. So I'm go here, I'm about to go over it, I cancel it out, I now land on the target. I'll try that again. Propel in the air, hold on and aim glide, cancel out. I'm gonna move forward, I'll propel forward instead of up, propel forward, aim glide, cancel out. Nope, I missed it. Try it again. Propel forward, aim glide, cancel out. Nope. It's kind of weird. I did it before. I wonder, let me see. Jump up. I wonder if that's the, okay, I never thought about that. If I aim glide forward, it doesn't seem to cancel out when I'm aiming glide forward. See, I'm pressing the X rapidly. But if I propel upward, if I go propel upward, I aim glide and direct forward, it allows for it to cancel out. So that's another thing you would need to remember. Remember this, remember this, remember this. Propelling forward will not initiate the cancel out with the aim glide. But it does. So it's finicky. It's weird that way. I just did it just now. Propel forward, aim glide. Doesn't do it. But I just did. So it's weird that way. I'm thinking maybe I'm doing something wrong. I'll crouch. I'll propel forward, aim glide. No. It works. So it does work, but sometimes it feels like it doesn't work and don't work. So that's a nice little thing to remember. That's a nice little mechanic as well. Always remember that. It's very helpful, especially if you're about to miss an objective. You could cancel out and land right on the objective. So let's move forward. We're now going to pick an object. This is a melee. This is a pole arm. Pole arms are designed for wide range combat. Everything is close, but at the same time, it allows for more range enemies, to hit enemies at a much longer range. And also, pole arms tend to be a little bit more faster than regular weapons. So a lot of people prefer pole arms, but the only bad part about pole arms, it does less damage than, let's say, a sword and stuff, because it's a pole. Even though it's faster and you can spin it faster, it does less damage. So a lot of people don't really go for the pole arms unless it has high status as high critical chance effects. So going with the melee, which is circle, the default, you then use circle to use the melee. Now the mechanics of the melee weapon is dependent on, one, the type of Warframe that's using, and two, how you're using your mechanics of what I've said with regards to everything. Aim glide, aim down sights, so on and so forth. When you just have a weapon like a melee weapon itself and you're aiming down sights, your character goes into what is called the block mode if you just have a melee weapon. Typically, if you have a gun, a main primary gun and secondary gun, you will never have your melee available. You would have to hold down on the triangle button and allow your character to switch to melee only. Now once you have your melee weapon in your hand, the aim down sights, which is typically meant for your guns, the L2 and the R2 for shooting. The L2 is now represented, your aim down sights, your L2 represents the block, which is melee. So you can move left, you can move right, you're still aiming down sights, you propel forward, you have your weapon in your hand. This goes the same for guns. You will still be shooting your guns while you're in the air. You propel up, you hold on R2, and you will have your weapon in your hands, blocking bullets while it's facing forward with regards to you. Let's try it again. Down 2. You can then swing, swing. This is what you would call the Devil May Cry mode. You can hit enemies up into the air. Like if you have a weapon that follows up with an aerial follow-up, knocking them into the air, you can then jump in, aim glide, and do the Devil May Cry while you're aim gliding. Because you could do melee combat in the air as well, and get combos in the air from doing melee combat. So the circle represents your melee weapon, hacking and slashing. Aim down slice when you only have the melee weapon allows it to go into block mode. Now there is a charge up attack for the melee weapon. What you would do is you would hold on the circle in order to do the charge attack, or in this case this game gives you the option of the R3. Now typically the R3 is just meant for looking around, but the moment you have a melee weapon, not a gun, not a primary or secondary gun, a melee weapon, the R3 is no longer designated towards just looking around. It is represented towards the melee weapon as a charge attack. You hold down the charge attack, and the charge attack with the melee weapon, this mechanics, which is typically the mechanics of you just looking around, the moment you hold melee weapon is devastating blow. The devastating blow is your bread and butter in this game. Remember that. Circle is the attack button. Sure, you want to kill everything fast. There's so many enemies around you. But you are going to run into a big boy. That's going to take more than a couple of slashes. That's going to take more than combos. The quickest way to get rid of any tough enemies. Because here's the thing about the charge attack. The charge attack represents 5 times the typical standard attacks of the regular melee weapon. So if you're hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, your charge attack is basically 5 of those hits in one shot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the second best part about it is that the charge attack, the time period for you to get your multiple different attacks off in your combo, is much faster than the amount of damage you would do within a couple of swings in order to get those criticals or to kill that enemy. So the charge attack does a vast amount more damage, maybe even 10 times more damage than your regular attacks. I believe it's 5 times more, but depending on the type of damage output, it can do up to 10 times more the damage of you just keep hitting again and again. So I highly recommend, if you're going to switch to your melee, to always press on the R3. And there's a combos that follows with the R3. You can press circle, circle, and you can follow up with the combos, and you can keep holding it and keep pressing it to do it over and over to do channel attacks. I would highly recommend you do that. So that's a nice mechanic that's allowed to the game as well. Proceeding forward with the story. So I'm talking a lot because I'm trying to get most of everything done with regards to the mechanics of the game first, then I'll go into the mods. So now that I've talked about mechanics of the game, I'm going to try to proceed with the mods of the game. See that? That was 3, 1, 2, 3 enemies with 1 slash in a spinning attack. All 3 of them are dead. Where I would have to aim towards each of those individuals to kill them separately. The spin attack of the charge, kill them all at the same time. I already told you what button is for the roll. It's the same button for the slide. These enemies have, when you sneak up on an enemy from behind, or if you walk up on an enemy from the behind and they have not detected you, a square will pop up on their back. Hitting that square allows you to go for a stealth kill. If you see it on any enemy, I highly recommend you do so. It's the same as doing a charge attack on the enemy, but silently.
There's a cache of weapons ahead. Grab what you can.
Okay, so now that I have a weapon, so I'll show what I mean by holding down a triangle to switch to melee. I have a weapon. You just need one weapon to switch to melee, just one. You don't need to have two. So now I have my kunais, so I could throw them and kill the enemy. The kunai throwing knives are the same as shooting a gun. So now you press on the triangle button and it goes to your melee. You only need one weapon in order to switch to melee. Press it again, or press it once again, it then goes back to the kunai. In order to use your melee, if you just press on the melee, press the triangle button, it does nothing. You have to hold down on the melee to go into the melee button in order to use the melee weapon. Because just pressing it goes back to either primary or secondary. Holding down on triangle allows you to use your melee weapon.
Good. The extraction point is up ahead. Hurry, before Vor finds out you've escaped.
Oh yeah, you could do this nice little backflip if you want, but it's really not necessary. It's just a nice little fun thing they add to the game. You press X, and it's like you're walking backwards, but you're facing forward. And you press the roll button, the button that you use for roll, wherever you're facing. Press all three at the same time, you go for a backflip. You could do it as long as you're facing forward.
Tenno flows like fire over the battle terrain. Do you remember how to dash up walls?
You don't need dash if you know how to propel. I just told you how to propel. Remember, propel, same as jumping. Press the roll button, the same roll button or the same crouch button. Press them both at the same time, look up, both at the same time, boom. No need for dash. Of course, dash is just jump onto the wall. Just press X onto the wall. You dash up the wall. But if you have propel, like a helicopter, there's no need for dashing. Just look up, press them both at the same time, Bob's your uncle. Sometimes it comes in handy if you miss. Whoop, like that. That's where the dash comes in. When you forget.